I want to bring in Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from California. He joins me from Los Angeles. Congressman, good to see you. Let's start with Ebola.
Thanks.
And Nurse Casey Hickox. She is being discharged today after voicing frustrations about being quarantined. Her story sparking a back and forth between state and federal officials on how we quarantine people. Is this what you think is going to be a positive development? I mean, how do you see this?
I do see it as a positive development. I don't think she should have been quarantined that way to begin with. And I'm glad it seems that New Jersey and New York are walking back what I think was a rash and ill-considered policy. If we are mandatorily quarantining everyone coming back, we are going to discourage healthcare professionals from going over there to fight this illness, and that is really a step in the wrong direction. The best hope of protecting our country and protecting people around the world is to contain the epidemic where it is and defeat it there. So anything that detracts from that unnecessarily doesn't make sense. And here you had somebody who had been tested and was negative for Ebola and nonetheless subject to this quarantine. And I'm glad that she's been released, and I think it was very ill-considered.
And Congressman, you're back in district. So far, 0 cases in California. Are you confident the hospitals there are prepared for something like this?
Well, as a delegation in Congress, we've reached out to our hospitals to make sure they have everything that they need, that they're putting in place the right protocols. You know, we do have the luxury, which Texas didn't, of having time to get prepared. Mayor de Blasio yesterday in New York said that the 3 months before they had their first patient was critical to their readiness. And I'm confident that California and its healthcare system is taking advantage of this time also to prepare in case we do get a case here. But I think working with the best of science, working with CDC, NIH, we can be ready, we should be ready, and we're going to do everything we can to oversee the process to make sure that we're ready.
Congressman, I want to move over to ISIS and a pair of ISIS-inspired attacks, a hatchet attack against police in New York and the shooting at the Canadian Parliament. In both cases, you have a lone wolf suspect carrying out the type of terror ISIS is encouraging sympathizers to commit. How alarmed should we be about lone wolves?
Well, we have to be concerned about it. I don't think we should be alarmed, though. The reality is, you know, we're a big, open country, and some of these terrible acts are going to be impossible to prevent completely. But then we've had this problem before. We didn't call it terrorism when it was just motivated by homicidal rage. But we're going to have to confront this. I think we are doing what we need to do in terms of our intelligence agencies when we can. But if someone is going to be radicalized merely by sitting in their basement looking at the computer, there's really little way to predict it. If they have no outside contact, if the plot doesn't originate overseas, if there aren't steps in preparation, it's very hard to stop completely. But we're a big, strong, resilient country, and we will cope, and we will prevent as much as we can.
And, you know, the New York Times article, I don't know, probably, I'm sure you saw it, but folks, if you haven't seen it, it's just tragic to read yesterday's New York Times, this article on the treatment of ISIS hostages from countries that won't pay ransom. The 3 American men and the 3 British hostages were singled out for the worst abuse. James Foley, the journalist, was executed by ISIS. His parents, Diane and John, talked to my colleague Andrea Mitchell about the U.S. policy on paying for hostages. I want you to listen to this, Congressman.
We feel that there needs to be an international open discussion to revisit these issues.
With the other families together, we were told very clearly that we should not do that.
Who told you that? State Department officials?
No, actually it was a member of the National Security Council.
You know, these hostages from Spain released, Italy released, other countries released. The Americans killed. Brits killed. Do you agree that, or do you think, Congressman, it's time to revisit the policy of paying ransom for hostages? And not publicly stating it, but I mean, it's clear that these countries in Europe say they don't do it, but they do.
You know, I don't think we should be paying ransom, and I say that fully aware of the fact that if it were a member of my family, I would be out there trying to raise ransom to protect my family. But as a nation, I think it would be a poor policy. I think it would be better for us, frankly, to try to work with these other countries to get them also to fight kidnapping and extortion by not paying into it. When we do, We merely provide the resources for these terrorist organizations to kill other people, to take other people hostage. We incentivize this practice. So I'd rather see us put a full court press on other nations not to succumb to this and instead to redouble our efforts to go after these people committing these kind of heinous crimes. I did read that story in the New York Times. It was just awful to consider what our fellow Americans went through and the Britons went through. And I think it ought to just catalyze our efforts and that of the rest of the world to go after these people with all the force we can.
Yeah, it just seems like those countries that publicly say they don't deal with hostage paying, and then they do. It's difficult to get them to turn around. But Congressman Schiff, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.